Hi, welcome to Manas Shield YouTube channel. Before we start, kindly subscribe to my YouTube channel. Thank you. Let's start the video. If you haven't watched the previous video, I'll link it in the description box, or you can click here. Tensura Volume 19. Chapter 4. The Gathering of the Giants. Chloe vs. Michael. Now then, Chloe and Michael were quite close in terms of their abilities. I couldn't tell exactly, so I was just making inferences, but I thought that they were evenly matched in terms of physical ability. Or perhaps I should say that they were evenly matched in their ability to interfere with the information particles. Since the speed had a fixed maximum value, it was one's power of interference that determined superiority or inferiority. The key point was how well one could control the information particles and outperform the enemy. That would be the decisive factor in a suspended world, I guessed. There were a few more things that I noticed while observing. First, there was no concept of defense in the suspended world. Those who could move, such as Chloe and Michael, could interfere with each other's information particles to form a unified offensive and defensive battle. On the other hand, those who could not move would be attacked without being able to take any defense. Moreover, the fact that time was stopped meant that all the forces were not working. Intermolecular forces such as star attraction and repulsion would not work, and there were no binding forces. There was no inertia, and no external factors, so an object retained its original state. In that case, what would happen if something was attacked in this state? The answer was simple: it would collapse in an instant. Whether it was a reinforced concrete wall, a solid bedrock, or a lump of steel, there was no resistance, because the atoms were not even bonded to each other. There was nothing in this world that could endure. That was the conclusion. A world in which all the laws of physics do not apply was a terrifying thing. When I thought about it, I wouldn't know what would happen, and if I entered the world carelessly, I was likely to get severely harmed. Between those who could move in the suspended world and those who couldn't, there was a dimensional barrier that could never be overcome. With that in mind, I was surprised that Diablo and Sally had survived. Diablo seemed to have anticipated this and activated a magical defense barrier. Whoa, newsflash. Diablo's anticipation of this situation was amazing, but the fact that his magic was also effective in the suspended world was an unexpected bonus. However, you cannot activate magic while in the suspended world. You must prepare for it beforehand, and once its effect is broken, it's over. I see, so that's why he was safe. I wonder if that's what Michael meant when he said he should have finished him off. It was meant as a follow-up. Whoa, then what about Sally? Sally survived because he was a parallel existence. I believe he is still pretending to be beaten up, hiding in Master's shadow and looking for an opportunity to abruptly attack Michael. It didn't make much sense, because time had stopped. That's what Seal-san explained to me. I had completely forgotten that he could now use parallel existence. In any case, Sally was very impressive. This was the only time I didn't think I'd be able to use him, but I thought to myself that he was really reliable under normal circumstances. And so, the first thing I noticed was that the suspended world had no concept of defense, but the other thing I noticed was that the person who activated the suspended world seemed to be at a disadvantage. I wasn't completely sure, but I didn't think I was wrong. It appeared that stopping time consumed a lot of energy. In that case, there was no point in suspending all the people who were able to move in the suspended world. This time, Michael chose not to release the suspended world because he didn't want me to join in. Not only that, but it seems that repeatedly stopping and deactivating it consumes more energy. Ah, I see. It's almost like an electrical appliance. In that case, perhaps Michael was not yet accustomed to time stop and unknowingly deactivated it several times earlier. I'm sure of it. Anyone who can observe the suspended world would have noticed it as soon as someone activated the time stop somewhere. I understand what Seal-san is trying to say. Time was not something that flowed only in a limited space. It was a suspended world that affected time and space in all worlds. Ever since Guy and Chloe had fought briefly, I hadn't experienced the strange sensation I had felt at that time, the feeling that time had stopped. It was proof that, as Seal-san had said, no one had triggered a time stop. Well, it was a world that only a limited number of people could understand, but even so, this ability was surprisingly difficult to handle. It was useless if the other party could also use it. Wait, what? What happens if you aim for the moment your sword hits the opponent? That's what Guy and Chloe were doing when they were fighting. Ah, I see. I didn't realize it at the time, but those two had been fighting with unimaginable and transcendental skill. But that had just been a light test of skill, and the more I learned about them, the scarier they got. That means I have to be ready to respond at a moment's notice. Otherwise, I wouldn't be able to compete with this level of combat. I'll make sure not to neglect my research as well. Ah, please do. I had been feeling overwhelmed, but those words made me feel relieved. It felt truly reliable to have a partner, Seal-san, whom I could count on. While I was thinking about this, the battle was reaching its climax. Chloe and Michael were still competing against each other, but my fingertips twitched. And little by little, I felt my senses returning from all corners of my body. Your evolution into a digital life form will soon be complete. Seal-san's words were truly a gospel of victory. If it was a one-on-one battle, then I'd have the upper hand once I entered the fray. And that time would come. It's time for you to be destroyed, you clever little hero. That's my line. You bragged about being a Monas, but that's nothing unusual. The psychological warfare had reached its climax. At this point, Chloe also revealed that she had Chrono within her. Michael was upset by this, and it created a small opening. Chloe wouldn't let it go. Goodbye, your fate ends here. The cold gaze pierced Michael. Reveal all things as they should be, reverse fate. Referring to the long and short hands of a clock, it accelerated the rotation in the opposite direction of the clock. Even in this suspended world, Chloe's skills were still intact. She didn't let us know it until the very end, and played it as a decisive move. The effect was dramatic. Chloe had said to reveal all things as they should be, but that was not exactly what she meant. For Chloe, it was to change things into what you think you should be. Therefore, it was not a return. And as for Michael, who was hit by the reverse fate. What am I doing? Who am I? What am I? A hollow being inhabiting Rudder's body. A skill that had lost its master, lost its reason for being, and had gone mad to fill its emptiness. Its true identity was ultimate skill Justice King Michael, Rudder's body, which had been preserved by the effects of the skill, began to crumble, because it couldn't withstand the excessive force it contained. Now that it had been turned back into a mere skill by Chloe's hands, it had no reason to maintain its host. In the face of this emptiness, Chloe spoke softly. If you've lost sight of the where you should go, will you come with me? I thought, but I decided to keep quiet and watch. Just like me, Michael, no, rather, Justice King Michael, his ego as a Monas had faded and returned to mere skill, seemed to be puzzled by the proposal. Chloe's proposal was to let it choose between disappearing or staying in this world with Chloe as its master. There was no easy answer, and it seemed like Justice King Michael would disappear, and time would start to move on, but at that moment, the voice of the world echoed in the suspended world. It is confirmed that the three elements of courage, hope, and justice have been gathered in individual, Chloe Albert. This fills in the missing elements of the ultimate skill Hulk King serial, and begins the complete integration into the ultimate skill Spacetime King, Yog Sothoth. Successful. Ultimate skill Spacetime King, Yog Sothoth has fully evolved into ultimate skill Spacetime God, Yog Sothoth. It was already obvious that it had been super enhanced without being explained. Inside Chloe, the ultimate evolution had taken place without her even being aware of it. Chloe, are you okay? Yes. Remure-san, I feel like I've truly become one with Chrono. Having seen the change in Chloe firsthand, I thought that it might be true. It was because I felt that her faint childishness had disappeared, and that she had now acquired a seductiveness that reminded me of an adult woman. Since this was a characteristic of Chrono, I thought that perhaps. True. Yes. Chloe, you, what are? Chloe kissed me out of the blue. I didn't know what I was saying, but Chloe's beauty had suddenly approached me, and then I suddenly felt a soft touch on my lips. It was completely unavoidable. There was no need to verify whether it could have been avoided or not. Yufufu. I'm an adult now. That's true, I admit it. But even so, I don't think you should take people by surprise like that. Well, it's a good thing that it was me, but wouldn't it be a problem if it was Leon? I'm fine with it, I am. And just like that, I made excuses to no one. However, why would Chloe suddenly kiss me? Wasn't this something Remure-san needed? I just felt like it, you know. Even if you say it in such a cute way. Wait, what do you mean I needed it? Tisk, what a clever form of bribery. I received the remnants of Hope King cereal from Chloe. I'm sure that there were other ways to do this, so I'll be more vigilant against surprise attacks in the future. Did you just click your tongue? Or rather, you don't really have to be so vigilant. I will keep a close watch. Yes. I wasn't sure why, but it felt like I shouldn't disobey anymore. I think it's better to let Seal-san do what it wants, so I decided to change the subject and cover it up. So then, now that you're talking about becoming one with Chrono, does that mean Chloe can't return to her child form? Oh, that's still okay. She could change her appearance at will, from a baby to an old woman. Whether that made any sense or not, I was relieved that I wouldn't have to startle Kenya and the others. Okay, I'm going to release the time stop. Taking over from Michael, it seemed that Chloe was now in control of stopping time. She did it as naturally, as if she was breathing. It was hard to imagine how much stronger she had become. Even without the assistance of Amanas, she seemed to be able to control her powers to the fullest. At the very least, I didn't need to be told to know that she was better than me who just relied on Seal-san. Okay, this is not the time to be so impressed. Before that, just one thing. I think, probably after this. Yeah, I understand. I'm pretty sure the amount of power I absorbed was less than expected. Got it. Then leave it to me this time. And you, take it easy, and get some rest. And so, I strongly cautioned Chloe. Even though Chloe appeared to be fine, there was no way she could be safe after evolving so rapidly. I had to make sure she got a good rest, whether she wanted it or not. Yufu, I'm glad you're worried about me. I wouldn't be fooled. Even if she smiles at me in such a cute way, I'm not like Leon. It was time for me to show my dignity as an adult. Alright. I'll be quiet for a little while then. So, you won't lose, right? Of course. Thanks to Chloe, I understand the concept of time. Fufu, that's right. I promised Chloe I would win. Well, I wasn't going to admit it, even if I lost, so it wouldn't be a lie. And so, Chloe released the time stop, and the world began to move once more. I was stopped in time while confronting Michael, but for those who couldn't recognize it, it must have seemed as if Michael suddenly disappeared, and Chloe had appeared. Specifically, Sally hurriedly spoke to me through telepathy net. Rimuru-sama, I apologize. I lost sight of the enemy. It's okay, but don't come out yet. Understood. That was all Sally needed to know. He was the best of the best, so it helped to talk fast. And then I began to play innocent. Oh hey Chloe. Thanks for coming to save me. He almost got me. Fufu, Rimuru-san's not a very good actor, huh? Shut up. I'm honest at heart, so I'm just not good at deceiving anyone. That's enough. No more cheating. Chloe, you should go back and relax. Okay. I'll trust you, then. After that, Chloe kept her promise to me, and returned to Tempest. From here on, she would be in her room in the labyrinth, recovering from the after effects of her rapid evolution. Then, I grinned towards the empty space. Come on out, you're hiding, aren't you? I thought my presence was perfectly concealed, so how did you notice? If he was asking me why, I'd have to say it was pretty obvious. In my case, it was a hunch. It was common knowledge that the moment you thought you won the battle was the moment when the opening was the largest. Therefore, I assumed that a parallel existence would be hidden during the battle. Or rather, it was something I definitely would have done. In my case, unlike Valgrand and Sally, I was unable to split my consciousness, so I couldn't take such a measure, but if it were possible, I would have adopted such a strategy. I was sure that Michael would have prepared such a strategy. When I tried to advise Chloe with that in mind, she told me that Michael was using parallel existence. It was a part of Michael that Chloe had taken in. However, she received all the information on Justice King, Michael, and by taking it in, she was able to find out Michael's plan. I was planning to wait for Michael to take me by surprise, but I decided not to bother. I figured I should just beat him head-on and end his stupid ambitions. I see. Just because you've read my thoughts, doesn't mean you saw through my skills. But even so. Michael spoke to me, looking slightly surprised. I didn't think you'd be able to defeat my parallel existence. Well, yeah. Though it wasn't me, but that girl. Hero Chrono. I underestimated how far she had come. It's not Chrono, but Chloe. Well, you're done here anyway, so there's no need to correct you. I said as such, lightly loosening my body. It had been a while since I had fought with all my might. Just to make sure, I would do some preparatory exercises. What nonsense. How dare you bark at me, when you've only been hiding behind the hero? That's one way to look at it. But you know, Chloe was my student. If I don't show her some dignity as a teacher, I'll lose my standing, won't I? I replied, but Michael just gave me a cold stare with no expression. The look on his face told me that he didn't understand me. Well, from the perspective of someone who could stop time, I probably wasn't important. But that was before. Demon Lord Rimuru, you have a bad memory. I taught you that you were an obstacle, but not an enemy. You should learn your lesson and leave this world quickly. Are you saying I should die? Obviously, I don't want that. Don't tell me what to do, just come and get me. As soon as I finished saying that, time stopped. Michael's sword closed in on me with a look of victory on his face. But alas. I too had made this suspended world my own. Even in this soundless world, I could hear the echoing clashes of swords and blades. It can't be, you. I've learned how to move in a suspended world. I shouted and faced Michael with a different expression. I saw Michael as an enemy. It was the same for Michael. He recognized me as an enemy to be defeated, and his condescending attitude disappeared. And then this time, in the truest sense of the word, we faced each other with the fate of the world at stake. Thank you for watching. Hope you enjoy it.